Hello, you big, beautiful world. You welcome to the podcast of Brothers of Many Words. I am your host, RP.
I am your co-host, King Mackie.
I'm your co-host, Christopher Wilkins.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Christopher has
yeah,
just joined
yeah.
the group. So
I say,
we are absolutely
welcome,
grateful and
brother.
happy to have
Welcome,
him on
welcome.
board. Absolutely. He's been a great addition to the team. Look forward to many more podcasts and years of us doing this thing together. So we're going to start this off with an affirmation. We stand together as brothers, united in purpose, grounded in respect. We move with love, speak with clarity, and carry peace in all we do. There is no ego here, no division, only growth, only elevation. Every voice matters, every presence has power. Together, we are building something greater than ourselves, something lasting. We are aligned in mind, spirit, and mission. We are ready. There is peace in energy. There is power in unity. There is purpose in our message. And with intention and discipline,
It
It is
is
done.
done.
outstanding. How's everybody doing today?
Hey,
Loving life.
Yeah, absolutely,
Great
absolutely.
weekend so far. About to be over.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Starting a new week. You know how it is.
Absolutely. Everybody's family doing okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
sir.
Okay. So
Yes, sir.
the purpose of the podcast is to create a space for open, honest, and thought-provoking discussions across a wide range of subjects. Through the reading of books, articles, and shared knowledge, we engage in dialogue that allows us to explore ideas, challenge perspectives, and deepen our understanding. This platform is built on discussion, review, and respectful debate, where growth is the goal and learning is continuous. As we evolve through each conversation, we not only enlighten ourselves, but also invite others to join us on this journey of awareness, insight, and transformation. Together, we seek the truth, expand perspective, and build something meaningful, one conversation at a time. So, this year's topic is the origins of religion, a subject that is not only historical, but deeply powerful, passionate, and alive with meaning. Africa is widely recognized as the cradle of humanity, the birthplace of Homo sapiens, where all modern human life began. Every person walking this earth today can trace their lineage back to this continent, supported by overwhelming genetic, fossil, and archaeological evidence. This is not just history, this is origin. This is identity. This is truth at its deepest level. And because of that, this conversation carries weight. It carries energy. It may challenge perspectives, ignite passion, and even spark debate. But that is where growth lives. We approach this topic with respect and curiosity and with the understanding that knowledge of origin is knowledge of self. So today we open the door to a discussion that is as enlightening as it is powerful. Because to understand where we come from, it is better to understand who we are. And so the book that we are covering today, again, The Ancient Kingdoms of Africa. This would be the second part of this, and I'm the one starting this off. And so my first chapter is the later 12th dynasty king. Okay, so there were 8 rulers who ruled during the 12th dynasty of Egypt, which is considered the most stable period for the new kingdom. Of the 8 rulers, which 3 stand out? So there were 3, and I hope I get their names right here. They're something special. So Amen Imhat the first, he stands out because he was the founder of the 12th dynasty. He established the new city of Ijatawa for better control, reorganized government, and strengthened central authority. He introduced the practice of co-regency, sharing the power with his son. He laid the foundation of stability that defined the dynasty. And so, number 2, there was Senuseret III. And so, why does he stand out? Not only was he kind and a giving person as a pharaoh, he was one of Egypt's greatest military leaders and is considered by some one of the greatest of pharaohs in pharaonic Egyptian history. He led major campaigns into Nubia to secure golden trade. He built fortresses along the Egyptian border. He strengthened the state internally and externally, enforcing unity and security. And so the third one, and I thought this was significant, she's a female, and her name is Sobek Nafuru, I believe is how you say it. And so why did she stand out? She was the first confirmed pharaoh of Egypt, ruled at the end of the 12th dynasty, associated with the crocodile god of Sobek. Her reign marked both continuity and transition. So Amenemhat I was the founder and system builder. Senuseret III was military power and a centralizer. Sobek Nefuru was a unique leader and symbolic end of the dynasty. The three leaders represent the beginning, the peak, and the transition of the 12th dynasty's power and stability. So my first question is, why was the 12th dynasty of Egypt considered the most stable period before the New Kingdom?
King Mac, you want to get this?
I get it. So I'll say that the 12th dynasty kind of brings out, restores order after chaos. Admitting the intermediate period, when you talk about the strong rulers that came about, it brought efficient administration. It allowed their powers to reorganize so local governments couldn't challenge the throne. It again, Robert mentioned, it built the strength of the military, established a border for Nubia and expanded through Nubia, and secured the borders of Nubia as well. It brought economic prosperity, taking roots. The trade routes has flourished, agriculture stabilized, and infrastructure also improved as well. So I would state that overall, in a simpler term, they eliminated internal threats, controlled external threats, and built systems that could outlast individual rulers. That's what I would say.
Yeah, man. I think the 12th dynasty is it's often seen as the most stable period before the New Kingdom because it restored the centralized strong rulers that had the disorder in the first immediate period. The kings reinforced royal authority, improved administration, strengthened the economy, and then they expanded agriculture and trade.
Right.
It kept a tighter control for Egypt's borders, which definitely makes it stand out that it was it wasn't just powerful, but orderly.
Right.
There was a sense of structure and continuity and competence in the government that allowed Egypt to prosper without the same level of internal collapse seen before or after. So in the sense, the 12th dynasty became a model of what balanced and well-governed Egyptian state could look like.
Sir.
You gentlemen are
Yes,
right.
sir.
It aligned leadership, economics, military, and belief into one cohesive system. Those are great answers. Great
Yes.
answers. So the next chapter I had was the literature and religion of the Middle Kingdom. So my bullet point is, why is the literature in the Middle Kingdom considered the classical version of the Egyptian language, and how did democratization of the Egyptian religion change the way it was practiced moving forward? And so, it's with the middle. During the Middle Kingdom, the Egyptian language was highly refined. It became the standardized form of Middle Egypt. It was a classical written language, much like Latin in medieval Europe. So, because of that, they had many great literary works, such as the Tale of Sinuhu, the Instructions of Amenemhat, and the Eloquent Peasant. And so it advanced storytelling, philosophy, and moral reflection. And so what it also did was create the growth of the scribe class, the ones who do all the writing and the studying and things like copying, if you will. So literature became something to study, copy, and teach. The language was fixed, preserved, and elevated to a classical standard. And so religiously, what it did with the democratization of the religion. So in the Old Kingdom, the afterlife was mainly for the pharaoh and the elite. During the Middle Kingdom, ordinary people could access it. So you had for the pharaohs, you had the pyramid text, and then for the ordinary people, they had the coffin text. And so later, it evolved into the Book of the Dead. And so
Yes.
what religion became was not inclusive. Became inclusive, but not exclusive. So just for a certain amount of people. It shifted the moral responsibility. So judgment in the afterlife applied to everyone.
Mhm.
And as we've spoken on before, it didn't matter what, as far as from a standpoint of, how much money you had, so to speak. It was based on your karma, what you did, good deeds and things, the good and bad deeds, so to speak.
Right.
And so the concept of living according to Maya expanded beyond the king. So it introduced spiritual equality. So let's see, religious practice became more widespread and practical. Religion became a part of daily life, not just royal ceremony. And so the Middle Kingdom didn't just preserve Egypt's language, it expanded its soul, giving both words and the afterlife to the people. So my question is, the Middle Kingdom is often called Egypt's intellectual and spiritual turning point. What impact did these changes have on Egyptian civilization moving forward, and what influences, if any, apply to modern society?
I say the Middle Kingdom mattered because it deepened Egyptian thought, not just Egyptian power. Literature became much more reflective during this time frame. They became more moral, more personal. Religion also became less centered only to the king and more accessible to the ordinary people, especially in ideas in the afterlife. And moving forward, that helped shape of a civilization where meaning, morality, and individual and spiritual worth became much more visible in their culture. In a modern sense, one of the biggest parallels is the idea that spiritual life and moral struggle are not reserved for the elites alone. So the Middle Kingdom helped move Egypt toward a broader human concern with justice, suffering, and responsibility. And you look at today, anyone can believe in religion now. We all have access to literature and the books and be able to read. And I'm glad that we live in this time frame versus then when it comes to religion.
Yeah. Like Chris said and Robert said as well too, RP. I mean, what mattered to most, I would say that was very significant was just the concept of the afterlife. I mean, it gave some sense of identity, and then it brought unity based upon that identity that we all set on the same timeline and we all can move together. And like you said, through that it brought literature and philosophy. I mean, why would it not? Laws, So through that, man, I feel like there was a huge contribution to the kingdom itself.
So to add to that too. So I can only imagine, what life would have been like before they had that opportunity. Because the Pharaoh was the divine king. Everybody worshipped him. So, I wonder what the thought process was for everybody else who didn't have who didn't think they had the right to the afterlife. What was that like?
Right.
You just lived and you died, and then you just went, where versus to where when it did become that way for everybody, probably give them a
Right.
sense of purpose. You know what I mean? And
Right.
a life to be worth living, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think chaos. We talk about the first intermediate period. It came that was chaotic. You know what I mean? So when you don't have that, you have no, like you say, you have no purpose. So you have no purpose. You don't care what you do and how you do it. And then again, this afterlife gave everybody a sense of purpose, which helped establish a better government.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a reason why the Middle Kingdom became so prosperous.
Absolutely.
I mean, they didn't have the unity before in the much older kingdom where there was that separation between them.
Yes.
No doubt.
People don't like to be controlled.
Bro, I'm trying to tell you.
This is true. Okay, so my next chapter was the collapse of the Middle Kingdom. My third bullet point is in the form of a question. What were the key factors that contributed to the collapse of the Middle Kingdom, and what ushered it into the second intermediate period? So, and these are things that we have certainly discussed before. So, after the strong rulers, after Senuseret III, leadership declined. Later kings, especially in the 13th dynasty, were short-lived and less effective. Power began shifting back to local officials. Egypt became fragmented politically, losing the unity that defined the Middle Kingdom. The 13th dynasty had many rulers in a short time. Lack of strong succession systems weakened continuity, possible palace intrigue and internal conflict. Leadership became inconsistent and unreliable. Evidence suggests that irregular, the Nile flooding, and as we've seen, with that Nile, the Nile was very important to Egypt as far as when you talk about agricultural, and so without it, with the irregular flooding, there were poor harvests, food shortages, economic stress, reduced ability to fund government, military, and infrastructure result. It weakened Egypt significantly. Let's see, Huru has spoke on, earlier about the key borders and strengthening their military. So they lost control of their border, Nubia in the south, and the Nile Delta, the Nile. Oh, my goodness. the Nile Delta in the north, and the Hyksos, the foreign rulers of Asia, the Levants, gained power in Lower Egypt as a result of that, and so they could no longer protect themselves from foreign powers. So the collapse of the Middle Kingdom was caused by weak leadership, rapid succession, economic and environmental stress, loss of border control, and the rise of foreign powers like the Hyksos, all of which led to political fragmentation and the second intermediate period. So my question is, what did the second intermediate period look like, and how did it change the face of Egypt?
So I would say the second intermediate period was a time of fragmentation and foreign influence. We already know Egypt split into rival regions, which again weakened their central authority. We also know that we had a foreign group that came in and took control of northern Egypt. Even though they brought, they took on some of the Egypt's, politics and gods. Still, you have a foreign entity coming to taking over your natural life. Native Egyptians, rulers led the South, especially around. So I guess what I would say is that there were just major changes overall. Like they pushed the Egyptians to make that change. Even when it came to the technology, they introduced new foreign, foreign technology, which was like the horse and chariot, advanced weaponry. They also increased the exposure of foreign cultures and ideas, and then a breakdown of traditional Egyptian dominance. I mean, like you said, man, they dominated Egypt. So uh, and how did it change Egypt? I would say it forced Egypt to adapt to a military and politically. It sparked a drive in Egypt. You know what I mean? It was a drive in them that allowed them to prosper as we would continue to kind of read through this. But in all essence, man, it humbled Egypt. And not only did it humble Egypt, but it made them harder and greater at the same time.
Yeah, that second intermediate period was, like you saying, that had a lot of political fragmentation, which definitely weakened the central authority, competing powers that were ruling different parts of Egypt at the time. And instead of a strong kingdom, Egypt was severely divided with native Egyptian rulers. And like you were talking about, the Hyksos. And I mean, in my opinion, the Hyksos, I don't think they dominated Egypt, but they definitely they had military advantage that Egypt didn't have because of their wood and certain resources that Egypt didn't, the chariot and the bow. But yeah, I'm with you on that, Mac. You pretty much covered it.
Yep, nope, you guys are dead on. It brought, as you said, they didn't just weaken it, it forced them to evolve, and that's exactly what it did. That's exactly what it did. Great answer, Keith.
Right on.
All right. It is my turn, and mine is a Hyksos invasion to the rise of Seth. This is pretty interesting, fellas. Let me give you guys a quick summary, all right? So in this segment, a Hyksos invasion to the rise of Seth was a step into a powerful, often overlooked chapter of ancient Kemet, which where instability opened the door to foreign rule. And identity was tested under pressure. Hyksos invasion was not just a takeover of land, but a shift of power, culture, and belief. It forced a great civilization to confront its weakness, adapt to new technologies, and ultimately redefine itself. Out of this period of conflict came resistance, unity, and transformation. Even the spiritual landscape was affected, as the rise of Seth reflected deeper tensions between order and chaos, and native foreign legacy and disruption. This is more than just history, it's a reflection of how people respond when their foundation is challenged. Do they break or do they evolve? Today, we explore the turning point from the invasion to identity, from division to power. I mean, I love that. I love that. Because it was from division to power. I mean, but anyway, so what we have here, the Hyksos. Am I saying that right, brothers? Hyksos.
The Hyksos.
The Hyksos invasion and foreign rule. So here are my bullet points. The Hyksos, likely of Western Asian origin, entered Egypt during a period of internal weakness and took control of northern Egypt, which is Lower Egypt. They introduced new technologies such as horse-drawn chariots, and again, they introduced bows as well, which gave them a military superior, or they were military superior. Their rule disrupted traditional Egypt, political and culture structures, creating a divide between North and South, right? So my question to you brothers is, how did the internal instability make Egypt vulnerable to Hyksos takeover?
I say Egypt was vulnerable because it was already weakened from the inside.
Right.
When the central power breaks down and leadership's divided, it definitely opens the door for outside groups like the Hyksos to step in and take control. And they took, I mean, it was mainly in the north, in the northern part of Egypt.
Yes. Okay.
And just
all right.
Dead on you. Hold on.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Chris is right. It was exactly that. They were already weak, and so that made it easier for them to succeed. And also, doing that 13th dynasty, I believe they had like I can't remember, like something like 60 kings in like 150 years or something. So the leadership was very, very short, which created that political fragmentation, so to speak. And as we spoke on the irregularity of the Nile River and whatnot, and so over time, groups like the Hyksos, gained influence, and they were able to easily, to overtake Egypt in that regard.
Yes, sir.
It's something I thought was really interesting about the Hyksos people when I was in this book is I didn't know that Egypt didn't have chariots and bows and arrows and all that. It really surprised me. I was like, really?
Yeah.
I'm like, they didn't have that? And,
that's right.
That was kind of wild. And I guess they didn't have wood like that was able to build things like that in their area.
So the 10 Commandments. Go ahead, Robert.
I was going to say, in all the movies, that's all you see.
Yes.
Is the chariots and this and that and the other. But you were right, because I thought the same thing too. Again.
But the 10 Commandments, though, that took time. That was in the New Kingdom because that was with Ramses.
Right.
That was a New Kingdom.
Yeah.
So that was after they'd defeated the Hyksos and took power back.
Hey, they upgraded them chariots in 10 Commandments. Boy, them bad boys was clean. I would mind having one to this day.
Right.
Save on this gas prices.
That's why I drive a 91 Corolla back and forth, man.
Brother, I don't.
And I'll tell you what, it's slick. It's the leather seats, man.
Yes. Hey, before I moved to Missouri, bro, I had the same Corolla.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny how the biggest dudes, man, get out the smallest vehicles.
That's crazy.
Oh, man.
Oh,
all right.
yeah.
So my next bullet point is Egyptian resistance and cultural tension. So native Egyptian rulers in Upper Egypt resisted the Hyksos control, leading to ongoing conflict and eventually efforts to reclaim the land. Hyksos adopted some Egyptian customs, but they were still considered foreign invaders. All right. So this period heightened Egyptian identity and nationalism, especially among Southern rulers. So my question is, which one? How did the resistance movement shape Egypt's future leadership?
You had said it in one of the last answers to my last question. Egypt was they were asleep. They were just mainly protecting what they had. But with the invasion of the Hyksos, that absolutely changed that. So we had future leaders come on. The pharaohs weren't just divine administrators; they became, military leaders and whatnot. They had to, they took on the advancements of, as we were speaking on, the chariots and the advanced weapon with the bows, and they added that to their military, and they built a professional army behind that. And so they were no longer just in defensive mode, so to speak. They absolutely pursued, to expand their borders into Nubia and the Levant and those areas and whatnot. And so it, the leadership became tied to protecting Egyptian identity and tradition. The resistance didn't just remove the Hyksos; they programmed Egyptian leadership. So they definitely had to, as you said, it made it force them to change what they did, how they went about their way of life.
Definitely. I mean, the resistance against the Hyksos helped create a tougher kind of leadership in Egypt. It pushed the rulers to become more military minded, more strategic. They were definitely more focused on securing their kingdom, which really helped set up for the new kingdom in the future. So the new kingdom probably really wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the Hyksos.
Yeah, I definitely do agree. And you know
And the
what?
Hyksos, what's really interesting, I'm sorry, man.
No, go ahead.
The Hyksos were Canaanites.
Mhm.
They were Canaanites.
They were
Yes.
Jews.
Yes.
I thought that was
Yeah.
very interesting.
Mhm.
And then they got defeated, and then that's what brought in the new kingdom after they were defeated.
Right. Yeah.
And I'd say some of them probably stuck around in Egypt and made them slaves.
Mhm.
It's a possibility.
Possibility.
I mean, I don't know. I'm still learning. I'm just connecting
real
dots
talk.
from reading the Bible and knowing that the Israelites were slaves during that time when Ramses was keen on building the statues and everything
Right.
that he was doing.
Right.
Um,
Right. Yeah,
but
I feel you, bro. No, I feel you on that one.
Excuse me.
Okay, so lastly, I have the rise of Set and shifting religion influence. I kind of have a two-part to this because I want to explain who Set was, and we mentioned the Bible, the collaboration or the comparison, right? I would say the comparison, but Hyksos elevated the god Seth, associating him with power, storms, and possibly their own foreign origins. Set, once a complex deity in Egypt belief, became more prominent in political symbolism chaos. All right. After the Hyksos were expelled, Set's reputation became more negative, reflecting Egyptian uh, resentment toward foreign rulers. So my question is, why would the Hyksos choose Seth as a central deity during their rule?
say it was likely because the Hyksos connected the Egyptian god Seth with their own god Baal. And since Baal was tied to strength, storm power, and warfare, so they were linking Baal to Seth, gave them the way to connect their Egyptian religion and strengthen their legitimacy.
Mhm. Yeah, you're right. You're dead on, and so that would give them, an end with with the Egyptian civilization by aligning, Set with Baal. It allowed them to definitely integrate with the Egyptian civilization, so to speak.
Right.
But I think only the elite, not the elite, but the ones in power that held office was really the ones concerned with believing in Seth. I think a lot of the Hyksos people that were living as common folk
Mhm.
were still following their god Baal.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, you're
Yeah.
you're right. You're right.
So I wanted to bring this up real quick. So I did a little research on Seth, and Seth is really considered the modern Satan, right, out of the Hebrew Bible. So I wanted to kind of bring some, connection with that, if you guys don't mind,
No, go ahead,
right?
brother.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so Seth was in ancient Kemet. So he was originally an Egyptian deity long before the Bible existed, right? And of course, you know it represented chaos, storms, desert, raw power, but not necessarily pure evil. But through the Hyksos period. I think I'm still saying it wrong, but let's go.
Hyksos.
Hyksos.
Hyksos. Yes.
Hyksos. Okay, after the Hyksos period, who favored Seth, Egyptians began to associate him as a foreign ruler and disorder. So over time, through the killing of Osiris, Seth became more of a negative and chaotic force. It wasn't considered evil at this period, but it continues, right? So the concept of Satan develops much later in Hebrew and Christian traditions, as we know. We just talked about that, through Ramses and all that. So when later cultures, as far as the Greeks and early Christians, encountered Egyptian religion, they tied their map foreign gods onto their own belief system. Because Seth was already seen as a chaotic and destructive god or manner, he was loosely, equated to being Satan. This wasn't originally based upon the Egyptians, but this was reinterpretation of other religions. So Set wasn't Satan. He became like Satan in the minds of later people who didn't fully understand the original balance of Egyptian spirituality. What started as a force of chaos, necessarily for order, rebranded over time into something pure evil. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I know we had read that in our book through Albert Churchward, how Set became Satan over time, and really how the South, because Set was originally the South, When you go back into the Nile Valley, and Heru was a god too, but Set actually outlived Heru. Actually, Set was the beginning before Heru had been established. Set had been worshipped for almost 300,000 years. And then again, Horus came, and then that became the good and evil concept of what we know as the Hebrew Bible when it comes to Jesus and Satan, or God and Satan.
Very good.
Yeah, a lot of modern day religions have taken from Egypt.
Absolutely.
All right, man. We ready to move on?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. So I had the sections in this book: the rise of Seth, the Hyksos, and the historical memory of Egypt, and then the Libyan history from the Neolithic period until the Middle Bronze Age, the Late Bronze Age Libyans, and then the 18th dynasty and the emergence of the New Kingdom. So the first topic I have here is the Hyksos and how crisis reshaped Egypt. One of the clearest themes running through these sections is that the Hyksos were not just a foreign people who took control of part of Egypt for a time. Their presence forced Egypt to change, and I think that matters a lot because a lot of times when people talk about invasions or foreign rule, they only focus on the humiliation of it. But this reading shows something much deeper, that sometimes a civilization becomes stronger because it gets exposed. The Hyksos took control in northern Egypt, especially in the Delta, during a period when Egypt was already politically divided and weaker than it was before. That part is definitely important. They did not walk into a completely united, unstoppable Egypt and somehow broke it. They were able to rise in part because Egypt had vulnerabilities. And once that happened, Egypt had to face reality, and it probably did not want to face, which was the outside groups could exploit their weaknesses. What makes Hyksos so significant is not just that they ruled, but that they brought military methods and technologies that changed the future of the Egyptian warfare. The horse and chariot, the composite bow, and other developments in war all became part of the Egyptian military world in the aftermath of the Hyksos rule. So the irony is that Egypt eventually used lessons shaped by that period to build itself into something even stronger. There's also the religious angle here that matters. The reading shows, we already kind of discussed this, but some of the kingdoms kind of merge them together in this book. The reading shows that the importance of Seth and how that god tied to the Hyksos in the Egyptian thought. Seth was already a complicated figure associated with power, disorder, conflict, and ambiguity. So the connection between Seth and the Hyksos people deepened how later Egyptians remembered the whole period. It was not just political memory, but became very symbolic to them as well. The Hyksos came to represent disorder, foreignness, and stability in the Egyptian imagination. But even there, I think the more honest reading is not that they simply destroyed Egypt. They disrupted Egypt, exposed it, and changed it. Egypt came out of that period more militarized, more alert, eventually more aggressive. So when we talk about the Hyksos, I do not think its best lens is just conquest. I think the better lens is more transformation through pressure. And my first discussion question I have for this is, do you think the Hyksos should mainly be remembered as destroyers of Egypt, or as a force that unintentionally helped reshape Egypt into a stronger civilization?
I'll say the Hyksos shouldn't be remembered only as destroyers, but they were both. They were disruptors and catalysts. They took advantage of Egypt's weakness, as any country or foreign entity or kingdom would, disrupted their order, and ruled as outsiders. But overall, without chaos, Egypt may not have remained what it became. Instead, it could have become a period. It became more unified, militarized, and strategic after this period. So it was a beneficial time for them. And I just want to bring up a point too, that's a life thing. That's a life lesson. We go through life and change comes, and it might disrupt our life. And a lot of people go down their wrong hill because of that disruption. But if you just hold on tight, you never know what's coming on the outside or how you can come out a stronger person.
They got comfortable in the Middle Kingdom. They got complacent.
They did, bro. They did. That's the best they did. They sure did.
Absolutely. And that's excuse me. We have said, the Hyksos they exposed Egypt's weaknesses, and they did push it to become stronger because of that defeat. From the Egyptian perspective, the Hyksos, they were seen as invaders. They took control of the Nile Delta and ruled from avarice. They challenged the authority of the native pharaohs. They became symbols of this order, Isfet, versus the Egyptian order, Maya. So that definitely was a breakdown of natural and divine order of things. They exposed the military, certainly, and being that the Hyksos were definitely more advanced than them, but they also introduced them to their military weapons and made them a powerhouse afterward.
Right.
That
Right.
an Egyptian, went from being isolated, so to speak, to becoming adventurers, if you will, expansionists. As Chris has mentioned before. So, it was a transformative force, despite being instability, and ultimately reshaped Egypt into a stronger, more militarized and expansion-driven civilization.
Yes, sir.
100%. All right, man. So topic 2 I have is Egypt's neighbors were never just background characters. So another major theme in these sections is that Egypt was never developing in isolation. The reading in Libyan history makes that very clear. Egypt often gets presented as this self-contained civilization along the Nile, almost like the whole story happens inside its own borders. But these sections push against that. They show that the people of Egypt's edges, especially to the west and the northeast, mattered a lot more than Egyptian self-image may have wanted to admit. The Libyan sections were especially important because they stretch far back from the Neolithic period into the Bronze Age. And they show these populations had long histories, even if left behind fewer centralized records than Egypt did. That matters because history often favors the people who built monuments, kept royal inscriptions, and controlled writing. But the people with those things get flattened, like without all those big monuments that Egypt's built. They get flattened and dismissed and reduced to stereotypes. And this is part of what happened with Libya in Egyptian memory. In the Egyptian sources, Libyans are often presented as outsiders, desert peoples, or threats pressing from the margins, but the actual picture is more complex. These were not just nameless raiders showing up at random. They were real populations with continuity, mobility, and grown importance over time. So by the late Bronze Age, the Libyan pressure was becoming very serious enough that the Egyptian rulers had to respond very directly. That means they were not just some irrelevant fringe people. They were part of a political reality Egypt had to deal with. These ties directly into the broader pattern we see also with the Hyksos in Egypt, like to imagine themselves as the center of order and civilization. But from the borderlands kept proving that history does not only move from the center outward. Sometimes the edges force the center to adapt. Sometimes the people who get described as lesser or chaotic end up shaping the major turns of civilization. So I think that this is one of the strongest lessons in this reading, that the people outside the center are often described by the center as dismissive. But those descriptions are not neutral, they're political. They protect the image of the civilization telling the story. Egypt could call neighboring peoples disorderly, foreign, or inferior, but the reality is that those same peoples kept affecting Egypt in real and lasting ways. So my question for this is, what do you think civilizations like Egypt so often portrayed neighboring people as inferior or chaotic, even when those same people clearly had enough power to shape Egyptian history?
Well, for the Egyptian power, they needed the power to justify themselves. They didn't report anything that was bad. They didn't want to make the pharaoh look bad. So everything that is from their history is always in a positive light. And then you have, from the religious side of it, you have Maya, which represented order and balance and truth, and Isself, which is chaos and disorder, when they were referring to these foreigners, if you will. So it wasn't about the reality, it's about the cosmic meaning. And so you mentioned the political legitimacy and also the propaganda. And for Egypt, the pharaohs were seen as divinely chosen to maintain order. Even when the enemies were strong, the Egyptian art showed that the pharaoh towering over them, enemies helped us to be submissive, and so that cause, leadership is easier to maintain when you control the narrative, as we have this day and age come to see as we are looking at and examining history. So the cultural superiority, Greeks called non-Greeks barbarians. Romans portray outsiders as uncivilized. Many empires frame themselves as the center of civilization. Every culture sees itself as a standard when they are strong and powerful, no doubt about it. The irony of it is that the the very peoples of Egypt called chaotic were often powerful enough to shape Egypt itself. Hyksos transformed Egypt's military. Nubians, Cushites ruled Egypt and influenced religion and kingship. This shows that the labels were ideological and not objective. So civilizations like Egypt are betrayed others as inferior and chaotic. Yeah, it was true, but because it protected their identity, justified their power, and made the world make sense within their belief system.
Yeah, hey, I'm gonna say something off the wall, man. When you go to the gym and you see that the biggest dude in the gym, what do we say? Or what do some say? Not a we. Well, not do we, but what do some say? Oh man, he's taking some.
Right.
Oh,
Always on
man, look,
juice.
his calves are small. Yeah, it's always something. So again, what it's about control, identity, and justification.
Yes. I mean, basically, Egypt would have to admit their vulnerability, and they didn't want
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we're dealing with that right now.
to. Yeah.
We're dealing with that right now.
Yes, we are. I got lots to say about that, but we
Oh
won't
my
tonight.
goodness. Hey, we should make our Tuesday podcast all political. We should do all political questions. Let's just open up the can, you know.
All right. Yeah, let's do it. Whatever. All right, man. Let's. My last topic we have. The new kingdom was not automatic; it was forged by crisis. So the last major theme I pulled from these sections is that the new kingdom did not just appear because Egypt was destined for greatness. It was forged through instability, struggle, and recovery. And I think that matters because sometimes when we look back on powerful empires, we tell the story like their rise was inevitable. This reading shows that it was not. The 18th dynasty and the emergence of the new kingdom only make full sense when you see them as a response of what became before. Egypt had gone through fragmentation, had experienced foreign rule in part of the land, and it had been forced to face military and political weakness. And once rulers in Egypt began pushing back against the Hyksos, especially through figures like Kamos or Amos, the goal was not just to restore what had been lost. The goal became to secure Egypt in a new way. That is where the shift happens. Egypt does not simply return to business as usual after expelling the Hyksos. Instead, it starts moving outward with more force and great intention. That becomes one of the defining features of the new kingdoms. Egypt becomes more expansionist, more militarized and organized, and more invested in controlling threats before they can develop its borders. In other words, the crisis changed the mindset of the state. So at the same time, Egypt was not culturally erased during the earlier period of the foreign rule. And that is an important distinction. The civilization definitely endured. But endurance is not the same thing as remaining unchanged. What emerged afterward was a more hardened version of Egypt, one that had learned from vulnerability and was far less willing to tolerate it again. That transformation was not only military, it was political, religious, and symbolic as well. The rise of Amon, the consolidation of royal authority, the monumental building projects, and the expansion under rulers like Hatshepsut and Thutmose III. And if people don't know, Hatshepsut was a woman, but she wanted to be portrayed as a king. She didn't want to be called a queen. Also shows a kingdom that is no longer just defending itself. So for me, this section really is about what happens when a civilization gets tested, then reinvents itself. The new kingdom was not just a comeback. It was a new phase of Egyptian power built out of lessons learned the hard way. So my last question, do you think the new kingdom should be seen mainly as Egypt's recovery from foreign domination, or as the moment Egypt became the very kind of expansionist power it was once feared.
I think you said it best. It was a turning point of the mindset. I mean, that's just period. At first, it was about reclaiming what was lost, expelling the Hyksos, and restoring control. But Egypt didn't stop there. Instead, they became something new, proactive, expansion, and they brought power. Rather than waiting for threats, Egypt, pushed outward into Nubia and the Near East, creating its empire. So I would say, I mean, it became a dominant force that it was meant to be.
Yes, it did.
So if you talk about the beginning, it was about the recovery and the restoration. If you look at the outcome, it was about expansion and dominance. And so if we get a little bit deeper into that, the Hyksos, they taught Egypt a very good lesson. Isolation equals vulnerability. And so Egypt came out of that more militarized, more strategic, and more proactive, even aggressive as far as expanding their empire. So a civilization that once feared foreign domination became a power that projected domination outward.
Yeah, they definitely. Basically, it was just a major transformation for them.
Right. Yeah.
But at the as we'll get into the next couple pages in the book, we're going to see that harmed them as well. They became arrogant.
They did. Yeah, they did.
Ramses was a big one of those.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Great podcast, man. A lot of good information.
Wonderful, brothers.
Man, look, everybody, we always do great, Kings, and so no matter how you get that information, it's how we deliver it. Everybody's different, but it's always beautiful. It comes across. It's always good, man.
Yes.
The stuff is just wow, man. To think that these were ancient times and these kingdoms were so powerful, but you see the same cycle as they go through. Economically on top, trade and resources, and politically together. Then something happens, and it's just that domino effect. And a lot of it seems to be with climatic change too. Plays an important role in that, because if there's no food,
absolutely,
that certainly brings chaos into the situation.
Yes. I mean, you could, if you zoom out, take the story of all these civilizations we talk about and zoom out and kind of look at it on a bigger scale. Look at nature. Everything rises and falls.
Yeah. But what about everything rises again?
That's what I mean. It's a cycle. It's a cycle of rising and falling and rising and falling. Life and death, life and death. We see it in all aspects of life. Even we like to separate ourselves and think that we're not really a part of that, but we are. We are part of nature.
That's right. Listen, and I think that insight right there is lost today. As we are doing throughout history, there's no great civilization survives. At some point in time, your turn is over, and there's somebody else next that is coming. And that may be a hard pill to swallow these days, but it is inevitable. You don't stay on top forever. It's just, it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
There's always someone hungrier than you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as we see, you get fat and happy. You get comfortable.
Yeah, you do.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. That's facts.
That was great, King. I mean,
absolutely
phenomenal.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful.
It was.
King Mackie.
Yes, sir.
Come on with that spotlight, bro.
Hey. So we got the spotlight tonight, April 12th, 2026. Our spotlight tonight is John Lewis.
John Lewis
is more than a civil rights leader. He was one of the youngest architects of the movement, most dangerous frontline work, and later one of the most steady political voices. Early on, born in rural Alabama, Lewis grew up under segregation as a child. He was inspired by radio broadcasts of civil rights leaders and began preaching to chickens on his own family farm, practicing leadership from long before the world had ever knew who he was. Lewis became a key leader in the Student Nonviolence Coordination Committee, the SNCC, one of the most important youth-led civil rights organizations. He participated in freedom rides challenging segregation, interstate travel, organized voter registration drives in the Deep South, and endured arrests, repeatedly physical violence without retaliation. He believed in nonviolence was not a weakness, but a discipline under pressure. Something called the Bloody Sunday in Salem in 1965. One of the most definite moments of his life became during this march for voting rights in Salem, Alabama. On March 7th, 1965, Lewis and other peaceful protesters crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge and were met by state troopers. He was brutally beaten, suffered a fractured skull. That moment shocked the nation and helped push forward the Voting Rights Act of 1965. We want to dedicate John Lewis and our spotlight tonight for his contribution to all Americans, and we continue to praise and give him a lineage.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, he walked.
Was there a song? Sunday Blood was that from the song?
Mm-hmm.
You know what song I'm talking about? Sunday Bloody Sunday.
Yeah.
He was he walked with Dr. King, and he certainly was a powerful voice in the government for his people. He was a good dude, good man, good man. Kings, so gonna take it out. Take it out. Any parting words?
Brother, I appreciate you guys. Hey, you guys educate me every day, and especially on these Sundays. It even though I do my own research, yet again, I always find something much more in what you guys say. So I appreciate it to the world. Hey, check out Brother Meaning Words. We are coming up. We are making some powerful moves, and we're moving forward constantly. So get out of our way if you're standing still.
Now, I just want to say I appreciate and thank you guys for having me on board, man. This has been an awesome journey. I'm excited.
Absolutely. As always, I'm very grateful for you, for both you Kings, and for King Corey too, man. You guys have made this a special, certainly a special scenario in my life. And Chris, it's good to have you on full time, King. Look for always like your insight and the opinion that you bring to it. It's always unique for all of us, you know, and everything that we bring. As you just mentioned, Haru, always learn something. Always learn something in these podcasts. And so you can follow us on Spotify, DJ, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, FM Riverside. We got more sites coming. I know I keep saying, but it's happening. It's happening. Look out for it.
Yes.
Listen, if you can't catch these videos, again, you know, you're riding down that road, click on that, find that stage and put the earbuds in. If you got that auxiliary cord, put it in and get on that phone and just hear these beautiful voices speak this knowledge to you.
Absolutely.
It's always good. I love y'all, man. We out, Kings.